My name is Clara Towson, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
I am Francisca George, and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Susan Leemans, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom. Yeah.
My name is Zainab Sammaz, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hey guys, my name is Sasha Vickery, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hi, my name is Lloyd Harris, and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Jan Faria, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Yes.
Take one. Well done.
Hi, my name is Jasmine Paolini, and I'm a friend of the show.
Wow, Jasmine, you got it in one time.
Ready? Play.
Well, hello there, and welcome to WTA Weekly. And I am here with, let's face it, it's becoming my partner in crime. I'm going to have to start stealing from Damien. It's Mario. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, and I'm very, very happy to be here today to discuss the action on the WTA. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, no time for the present. Let's jump right in there. And well, there's only one WTA tournament to talk about because it's the only main tour event that happened. Doha. And I obviously last episode I said it's difficult to see anyone other than Iga Swiatek holding the Golden Falcon. And it turns out it wasn't, but to be fair, she got pretty close. What I don't think anyone would have predicted was either of the two finalists making the final, let alone Amanda Anisimova winning her first 1,000 title in, what ended up being relatively emphatic circumstances. You know, she out-hit Ostapenko on the day. Ostapenko wasn't that bad. Mario, from my perspective, this has to be the definition of a fairy tale run.
Well, yeah, absolutely. We usually tend to use this when it comes to maybe winning a Grand Slam, but this is actually kind of similar story because, it's a very, very big title, a 1,000 title for a player who had already actually got close to that last year. But if we go even, more back in time, we know that teenage sensation Anisimova, we remember her very well, making moves on the WTA tour, but then many struggles, and many people remembered her father, but also, of course, when she had to took time off the tour due to mental health issues. She dedicated herself to other things for some period of time, and then came back with maybe a clearer mind, fresh in energies, and not just from the physical point of view, but of course also mentally and psychologically. And this is showing because even if she hasn't been incredibly consistent in her comeback, even before this week. She had already shown very good signs because, as I mentioned, another final last year in Canada, in another 1,000 events, and some other big wins. It was a bit difficult, of course, to predict her to win this week because, I don't think that there were many signs that they were showing us maybe here to win something big right now. But it makes sense if you think, about how good of a player she is. And yeah, I agree with your definition of fairy tale story because of all these struggles that we are mentioning. And now, let's see, because new perspectives can open for her. She had already reached pretty high positions in the rankings before, a few years ago, but now it's a totally different thing. A big title in her hands, top 20 debut, and who knows? Maybe I don't want to get too far ahead, but for sure this story is good because of what happened in the past, but also because of what can happen maybe in the future, because she's a player who can win other good things, I guess.
Oh, for sure. And she's been tipped for that for ages. She's come close before. I mean, we've got it kind of across the bottom of the screen here on the kind of the video version of this, but our producer is reminding us of our glorious leader, John Silk's predictions of the end of year top 10 for the WTA, and he had Anisimova breaking the top 10. And I do remember thinking after she went, it was like, heck, John's halfway to being right. He's going to be unbearable to deal with now. So yeah, we'll see.
I think probably Keys has a good chance to end the year in the top 10 now that she won a slam, and she's not on the list here. So
fair. No one was calling Keys. So Alisimova's got to have a good chance. She's got a little bit more to go to kind of get there, but she's got a lot of points to predict, to kind of pick up between now and the end of the year. But yeah, Anisimova doing that. And I see what you mean. Like, I think Anisimova has kind of, I think it's possibly the best comeback from a mental health break we've ever seen. Obviously, some people, we probably didn't know it was a mental health break at the time, so maybe it's someone's a bit more open about it. But let's put it like this: Osaka hasn't lifted a title yet, although she's done all right. But she's done all right still. But yeah, I think that's something to be impressed of, and like an encouragement to other players who maybe need to take that time. But going back to the tennis, I don't know how much you've watched this week, but what was it when you've seen Anisimova playing that impressed you about her in Doha specifically?
Well, I would say that she has this kind of style that, of course, everybody knows about how effortless her ball striking can be. But at the same time, I feel like this week we've seen a very also poised version of Anisimova. I mean, I know that she had also on social media some reactions have gone viral, but I mean, tennis-wise, just technical and tactical stuff. She's really been calm and poised in playing with a clear mind, I would say. Never really, even especially in that match against Marta Kostyuk, which has been the toughest match she played in terms of the scoreline, how close it was. She never looked like she was truly losing it, even in the toughest moments. We've seen her before in the past having really rough streaks of games that maybe could have affected her final result, and also maybe mentally, for example, after dropping a set, how approaching the next one. While, I would say that the way she handled everything, it's been absolutely impressive from a mental point of view. And about also the technical stuff, I would say that the court being this way actually really suited her. Her ball striking, give her the right time to also defend the court really well where she needed to, and to just have the time maybe she needs to be even more more clear with the ball striking. We've also seen her getting very good results on clay before, for example. So it's nothing new actually that she finds her her best tennis in this sort of slow, high bouncing conditions. And I would say that, yeah, of course she can play very well everywhere, but probably these courts showed why her tennis can become even more dangerous when she has that a little bit of extra time to to just let her explosion in terms of the how aggressive she is on the court.
Yeah, I think we saw that with a lot of the players who did well in Doha this week, right?
Yeah.
Alexandrova, similar case. Yelena Ostapenko loved having the timing there. And, we talk a lot about big hitters performing best on faster courts because their shots really move through the court a lot bigger. It kind of enhances the strengths they have already. I don't think we talk enough about how much timing can help as well. I mean, Swiatek's not exactly a weak hitter. She just hits the ball differently. But we talk about a lot of how she needs timing for her game to be effective. It's not something we talk about a lot.
Yeah, I mean, probably because, of course, when you have such a heavy, heavy ball, heavy shots, of course, if your game is in the zone, fast courts can really make your tennis some sort of unplayable. But I would say that on faster courts, actually, there are lower margins also for these players. And so in a week like this one, they can truly, shine even in the toughest moments, meaning that maybe they don't even need to be really 100% all every single time, every single point to to let their shots be more effective. I would say at least this is something I think a lot about, when it's about the court being a bit slower and also the ball bouncing a bit higher, because it helps you also in defending the court for these players who don't make the defensive game their biggest strength. And so I would say that this week has had a really good storyline, talking about these players who play this kind of heavy shot tennis, really firing and dominating the court, actually.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. So, so we've seen that now in Anisimova. I'm looking forward to seeing what else she kind of does. Her opponent in the final, Yelena Ostapenko.
Yeah.
Again, I said in the intro, nobody would have predicted her. A, because she's hard to predict, and B, she'd only won 2 matches since Wimbledon last year. And the next thing we know, she goes on an absolute tear through the draw, taking out quite a few top players, including Paolini and Swiatek, dismantling Jabeur. I had her as the heavy favourite going into the title because she was striking the ball so cleanly, especially in comparison to Anisimova in the other semi-final, where I think Alexandra probably didn't really play her best in that match. But I guess the only thing to clarify, though, is maybe Ostapenko may have peaked too soon. Like, she brought her best against Swiatek, and it's difficult to come out and the next day and do exactly the same thing. That's the only thing. That was the only doubt I had in my mind over it. But I did go into that final thinking Ostapenko would win it. But even though she didn't, I think we can safely say that Ostapenko is no longer destined to be a double specialist.
No. I get what you say about the form. She was really not in form from, talking about the results in singles, at least, because in doubles, she had already won, for example, a title in Abu Dhabi. So, I mean, it's a different thing. And maybe also winning a title in doubles can have helped her a little bit. I don't know, but actually, she always finds herself pretty well in these courts in Doha, in Dubai. So it also makes sense that she returned to form right now. I don't know about the final, what I was thinking, because I don't know. I know the results for Ostapenko speak for themselves, and Anisimova still hasn't got, for example, to the Grand Slam title. But probably I would say that I don't know, probably I don't think that Anisimova is has nothing to invite, when it talks when it comes to Ostapenko. So I don't know. I was not really expecting anything in particular for the match, talking about who could have won, because both players were looking, very strong actually. So it was a bit difficult for me to make a prediction. Yeah, probably for sure I could have expected a little bit more from her. Ghost is reminding us about her serve not being super on point. Conditions were quite tough, actually,
Very
because
windy.
rain, windy. This also maybe has changed compared to the first part of the week. So it hasn't been easy, and Anisimova has shown a better adaptability to these conditions. Anyway, I think that of course it's always disappointing to lose a final, but since you mentioned how Ostapenko had won just 2 matches in the past 6 months, 7 months in singles, I guess this is an unbelievably important week, regardless of whether the title, the trophy, the winners trophy, the runner-up trophy. She got a big result, and she probably needed this both for ranking wise, because she was now number 35, so she was risking to be unseeded in some tournaments like the Sunshine Double or French Open. So this final reach makes her breathe talking about the ranking, and also of course the confidence, approaching the next tournaments with few wins for sure can help you. And so I would say that probably doesn't matter that much when it comes to the analysis of Ostapenko's moment, the fact that she lost the final.
Yeah. I don't think it changes much, like win or lose from her season. I think it would be nice for her to get another big title, to be honest, especially in a place that she's had some success before. I think that's what I maybe wanted from her perspective. But yeah, I don't think win or lose it was going to change anyone's opinion of her. I think everyone knows she's a darn good tennis player when she's on, anyway. And even when she's off, like it's still breathtaking the power that she has in those shots. Yeah, I don't see it. I mean, like, let's face it, Ostapenko is always going to be one of those players that, like, when she's on, I don't think anyone can beat her, really. I think even someone like Sabalenka, it would. But obviously, the days where she's on are like a couple of times a year, almost, or the week when she puts a week like this together. Right? She's one of those streaky big hitters you get that are in the field. Your Stremska is another one I would think of. Anisimova is actually another one I would think of in that respect. Alexandrova, Sabalenka used to be, but she's cleared that up now, and that's why she's the world number one.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think it's going to affect how we see it, other than maybe give her a bit more respect in the singles now, because yeah, as I said, like she was winning way more in doubles. So excited to see what she does in Dubai. This usually sparks a few more consistent wins sparks through the year. So yeah, I'm impressed with it. I mean, like, yeah, I don't know, would you agree with it? Like, when Ostapenko is on, like when she's 100%, no one can beat her?
Well, more or less, yeah. I would say that, of course, she's not the only one, but I get what you say, an unbelievably high ceiling, meaning that with the way she hits, you feel like you don't have the matching control. And this happens even, for the players who makes of the defense their strength, or one of their strengths. And we've seen, for example, in the matchup against Fiontek, where Ostapenko is up, she still hasn't beaten Goff. I think it's 0-2. But yeah, I mean, I agree with what you say, meaning that if she is on fire, she has a peak which not many players can reach. So yeah, I definitely agree with you. And also, let's say that this this season so far, the start of this season has kind of had this storyline that, first of all, it's never too late, and then that there is space for other players who are not right now in the top 3, 4, 5 in the rankings. So it's getting interesting also because now we approach other 1000 tournaments, and there will be, of course, many players like Anisimova, Ostapenko, Keys, who will battle to get their hands on a trophy, on a big trophy for the first time in a while. And also the urgency from the top players to finally win a big title this year, because neither of them has got any. Of course, only 2 big tournaments we had so far, but still right now with Dubai, Indian Wells, Miami, I would say that the top players should be very, very hungry to try to, of course, win their first title of the season, big title. I mean,
yeah, I know what you mean, because this start to this WTA 2025 season has been a bit weird because the big names haven't won a title yet, unless you count Goff winning the United Cup with the US. Yeah, like Sabalenka doesn't have a trophy yet. Swiatek doesn't have a trophy yet.
Sabalenka won in Brisbane, of course.
Yeah, she won Brisbane. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, but like big trophies, like
yes, exactly,
1000s Grand Slams. Yeah, I mean, okay, we've only had 2 so far, but you would expect one of them to have got a Grand Slam at this point at the Australian Open. So it's certainly building up to an interesting season of like the WTA becoming super competitive again, and it certainly makes, when we come to doing the Dubai draw preview, a little bit more interesting, because there's these players who are kind of like the late 90s generation that still won't go away and still will occasionally peak and cause problems for the people who are trying to like control the top of the game.
Yeah, I agree with that. And actually also, the WTA has always had great depth, meaning, many players that we knew they could have played great tennis, but they weren't. And right now the depth is looking incredibly entertaining, because these players are showing up, talking about their level and the ability to to beat the top players on the biggest stages. And this makes at least the next big tournaments really interesting from that point of view, also because, I mean, Dubai now comes and only one will win. So I don't know if it's Swiatek. Okay, Swiatek won a big title, but what about Goff, Sabalenka? So I mean, it will be interesting for the next months to see what the landscape will look like. And at this point, it's not that easy to predict, even though the top players, of course, are going to stay there, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's clearly going to happen. So maybe zooming in a little bit on Iga Swiatek, lost to Ostapenko. I'm going to say it's difficult to say it was unexpected, but I think a lot of people did think she was finally going to get that win. Nobody counted on Ostapenko basically not giving her the opportunity in that match, basically, is what happened. How are you assessing how her season's going at the minute?
It's a bit tough to say, meaning that, of course, when you talk about Iga Swiatek, the expectations are super, super high. But I still, would give her a couple of big tournament yet, at least, after Indian Wells, to to really draw judgment, because so far she still was a point away from the Australian Open final. And yeah, of course, Doha feels as a big disappointment, because we knew that she has a fantastic record in Doha. But I don't know, for example, last year she was semi-finalist in Dubai and winner in Doha. Maybe this year it's the opposite. So I would say that I still would give her another month before starting to draw judgment, because so far it's a little bit too early. Considering that she reached a couple of results that uh, don't really allow you to draw judgment, because if she had lost earlier, maybe you could have talked a bit more about the disappointment. So you still get solid start, meaning that she still reached 2 semifinals out of 2 big tournaments. Of course, the expectations when it comes to her are even higher, but it's still early after 2 semifinals to talk the season disappointing so far. So I would still wait at least Indian Wells, Dubai Indian Wells, because Indian Wells is another tournament where usually conditions suit their tennis really well. So maybe after the tournament in Indian Wells, we will start talking a little bit more about how her season is going, because so far the results are, let's say, good, but maybe not good enough for her. And but still, it's still fine, I would say.
I think I agree with that. I think I would agree with that. Yeah, they're good. You wouldn't expect, you would hope she was holding a trophy at this point, but she's been pretty close to all of them. And interestingly, the last 3 seasons, 22, 23, 24, she's reached 8 semifinals that are 1,000 level or above. So, and that includes Olympics and WTA finals, it includes Grand Slams. She's already got 2 out of 2 so far this year. She's on par with how she did last year. Actually, probably, on par with how she did last year. We haven't had Dubai yet. So, could even be a better start in that respect. Like, she is consistently in the mix and showing that she is the yardstick by which the rest of the tour has got to judge itself by. Like, if you're beating Iga Swiatek, you are probably winning the tournament, or at least playing well enough to do that, in theory anyway. So that's
well,
kind
you
of
could
how I
say
see it.
you could say it by the
changed.
way Ostapenko was reacting also in the match against Iga. It's always playing against her and trying to beat her is always a huge challenge for everybody, even for players who are 4-0 up against her in the head-to-head. So it's always, when you face her, it's always a big challenge, and you want to show up, because showing up against her is also kind of showing up to the rest of the tour, and saying, okay, I'm here ready to do big moves, because when you beat Iga, you are ready to make big moves.
Exactly. Yeah. And let's face it, again, I can't think of a player that she's lost to that hasn't impressed, that doesn't have a really good level in them, hasn't had me, like, in the last sort of 3 years or so. Like, I think probably the only one that may be the most disappointing one might be Yulia Putintseva, if you just base it on ranking and like CV and whatnot. And even then, Putintseva is like one of those players that I'm like, how has she not done better in her career? So
yeah, I get it. And especially where she faced there, with her tennis, with her game, Putintseva, we kind of knew that she could have been a bit uncomfortable for Swiatek, especially, when you face Putintseva on the surface you're the least comfortable on. Putintseva can really expose your, let's say, little flows in movement if you're not feeling 100% comfortable on the court. So it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense in that situation. Yeah, I guess, we're kind of going into this a little bit. I was debating whether or not to ask this question, but I think I will. I think I already know the answer to this based on what you're saying.
Okay.
But given I guess this is like one of those things that always kind of gets folded up in discussion of someone like Iga Swiatek, who, is seen as the best of her generation, top 2 player in the world. Like, Schwarner in the live chat saying highest floor in the WTA. We've said that, like, she's the benchmark. Does she lose too many matches for a player of her caliber?
Oh, this is a tough question, meaning that for the way I look tennis, the way I perceive this game, my answer would be no, because for me, losing in tennis is not something extraordinary. And, you know, everybody lose every week, and yes, of course, we expect her to win another title soon for a player of her caliber, but I wouldn't say that she loses too many matches. If you look at her record, especially since 2022, I think that over the course of 3 years, she maintained an 87% of matches won. I would say that this is a data which answers the question. She wins, as many matches as she has to, and of course now it's a bit of time that she doesn't get a title, and so since she is Iga Swiatek, we are expecting her to win another one very soon. But just talking about the numbers of matches she wins, she loses, I would say that she is doing fine.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, and
I think the record this year is she lost 2 matches.
3.
A United Cup.
United Cup. Yeah. Golf United Cup, Keys Australian Open.
Golf. Okay, 3 matches, and yeah, but one 11, 12. So I would say that this is not looking bad. 13-3. Yeah. Thanks, Warner.
There we go. Yeah, that's a really good win record, and that's
I
would
better. Say, for the way I perceive this game, my answer is no. Then again, the title in your hand maybe is a thing, but I would say let's wait, at least Indian Wells before talking about that.
I agree with you. I think it depends on what you're comparing to, right? If you're comparing her to the field, the current field, or even to her peers at the very, very top, like Sabalenka and Goff, still really, really good. She's matching them. Like, they're very similar to each other in their kind of records. You also, like, winning just one professional level tennis match is incredibly hard. And it also, you have to kind of bear in mind that, like, as we mentioned, players like Ostapenko and Anisimova, even Keys back in the Australian Open, on their day, are unbeatable pretty much by anyone. Like, everyone has that level in them on the tour where they will play the best of their life and no one can stop them. It's just how often that happens, and Iga's happens more often than most players. Again, only Sabalenka and Goff really in that category of frequency where that happens. If you're looking historically, Iga loses about as often as other great players of history, like Sanchez Vicaria or a Sharapova or an Enan. It's when you decide to try and put her in the Serena category that you run into problems. And that is not something you should do until someone stopped playing, especially since Iga's still 23.
Yeah, and also I would say that these players who have won, let's say, 20 Grand Slams are untouchable unless you start getting to, 11, 12. Then you can start talking about that. But, I think these players, like you mentioned, the Serena category, are too successful to be brought into a conversation of a player who is 23 years old. So it also depends on a lot of things that still have to happen. For example, Serena Williams did 11 Grand Slams in the 30s, 10, 11 Grand Slams. So she built her legacy also, let's say, running a marathon. If not, you don't get to such big quantity of slams, big titles. So I would say that I don't even like to talk that much about how many slams title a player will win. This is a player who is living her career. He is in, let's say, probably the best part of her career. We don't know what can happen in the future. But yeah, the prediction, talking about her level and her potential as a top player, is incredibly big. Then if she will stop at 7 slams, 10, 15, time will tell. But, talking about the level, she has what she needs, I would say, and this is what we are witnessing. Then again, probably we expect her to win a title soon, but let's wait a couple of tournaments.
How much does this Ostapenko head-to-head matter for her legacy? Because I think we'd probably be remiss not to mention that at this point. Like, I think some people might go through, if we don't mention that this episode, it's going to be weird. She's now 0 for 5. I still think, and I think I think others of the time have said that like each of those 5 matches were completely different to each other with no real discernible pattern, other than obviously the standard one where like a big hitter catches fire on a big surface, but that didn't happen this time. So a quick service. So yeah, thoughts on the fact it's now 0-5?
The thing is that it's difficult. They were comparing this head-to-head, for example, and I've read about Federer and Nalbandian. Federer starting 0-5 against Nalbandian and then turning the tables around. But it's totally different because, for example, those 2 players were players who were consistently in their age reaching later stages of tournaments. And so then there was a first period where Nalbandian had something more than Roger, and so he was winning more of these matches, and then they were still consistently reaching the semi-final, the quarter-final, and Federer started getting better and turning the head-to-head, and same thing happened, for example, in the Sinner-Medvedev matchup. Here it's tough because Ostapenko doesn't reach the later stages of tournament so often to play Ostapenko to play Swiatek that many times. For example, in the end, this was only their second match since Swiatek had the first long winning streak of her career, and then many matches, that match, for example, Dubai 22, have been very close. For sure, I would say that more than having the head-to-head down, it's the fact that Iga hasn't beaten her. Never. She never did it. That probably stays in her mind a little bit. So even if it's, let's say, 1-6 rather than 0-5, it would probably look different in her head. At least that's kind of my feeling.
Makes sense to me.
But yeah, she seems to be a bit frustrated by the fact that she doesn't feel like the match is on her racket. And it's also fine because a top player usually has the match on her racket. Maybe she's matched by the other players doing well, for example, like Keys at the Australian Open, but it was different. Against Keys at the Australian Open, it was also on Iga's racket. Both had the match on their racket in their way. Here, the frustration, I would guess, comes a lot by not feeling like the match was on a racket. But then again, if you get to face Ostapenko in a semi-final of a 1000 event, there's a good chance that Ostapenko is living her peak moment. And for a player who already suffers the matchup, then it becomes even more difficult. But yeah, it's a bit tough. It's kind of an anomaly because, how tough of a matchup this can be, it's still a bit weird that Iga never won in 5 matches.
I still think she'll win one at some point. All right. Well, talking of frustrations and weird matchups, correct me if I'm wrong, Arina Sabalenka and Katerina Alexandrova also have a weird matchup. And that was also on display in Doha in what ended up being a very close match with it ending in a deciding tiebreak. Sabalenka didn't seem to be winning points in her serve during that deciding tiebreak. It was a bit of a messy one from Arina, that one. But yeah, I guess we'd be remiss to not ask the same sort of questions I've been asking about Iga. about Arina Sabalenka in terms of how we're assessing her season at the moment, how disappointed she'll be at kind of the opportunities, how we're seeing her matchup, seeing like, I think given they are in kind of the same category right now. Yeah, thoughts on sort of Arina's maybe slightly disappointing Doha?
Yeah, despite playing some shaky matches this year, I cannot say that she started bad her season, meaning that she won her first tournament she played and she reached the final at the Australian Open. So she had a successful Australian swing overall results wise. Of course, for a player who had won the 2 previous Australian Open titles, it's not good, of course, to not defend your title. But if we look in retrospective, it's a good Australian swing in terms of result. But yeah, I agree that she's not serving that well in this first part of the year. And this is probably making a big difference in her probably not being that dominant also in the single match. Overall, I would say that it's similar situation as Iga probably, meaning that, there is Dubai, there is the Sunshine Double. So there's still plenty of time. Of course, also as a first match after, a final of a Grand Slam, even if lost, you still played the full Grand Slam, putting all your energies into that. Playing Alexandrova straight away, considering also the form Alexandrova is on, it's not easy at all. Of course, she had her chances. She could have done better in winning the points that would have led her to close the match out. And so from that point of view, it was a disappointing loss. But still, she got another week, let's say, because she played just one match in Doha to still keep, finding herself, working on her things after the Australian swing. And Dubai will be another test for her. Probably Alexandrova again, we will see, because it's a possible round 2 once again. But yeah, I would say that probably we are talking about not being that satisfied with Sabalenka, because last year she changed the perspective we have on her, winning 2 Slam, being now a 3-time Grand Slam champion, which is a big thing, and we're number 1 as well. But still, I mean, we are a bit in the same situation. We cannot say that she had a bad start of the year. Of course, we are expecting an answer after this disappointing loss that she had in Doha. That's for sure. We expect in Dubai to see a hungry Sabalenka trying her best to get a good result.
And to be honest, I mean, it's kind of on par for Sabalenka. Again, we talk about Swiatek kind of being on par, but without as kind of being on par with what we expect up to this point. It's again very similar start for Sabalenka to what we used to. Wins the title in the opening week in Australia, win Australian Open final, not great results during the Middle East swing. So, or like Doha, like she didn't play Doha last year, she played Dubai.
Actually,
again,
also the Sunshine Double.
Yeah.
Last year.
So, yeah, Sunshine Double's the bit that's kind of like it's hard to get a consistent read on, but
yeah, that's true.
She's kind of again, it's kind of like this sort of similar, but just doesn't have the same headlines as she has done previous years at this point. So I think that's kind of where we've got this sort of similar kind of start here. Were you going to say, Mario?
No. That's for sure. I mean, also, I was thinking also 23. I mean, she reached the quarters in Dubai that year, but still was not, a fantastic loss that she had, because she was really up in the match against Krejcikova. Well, I would say that, as I always say, when we have these big tournaments back to back, it's difficult for me to really draw judgment after one and before the other. I tend to, for example, draw a judgment after Dubai, after Miami, because I can kind of group the results together, put the results together. So Doha, Dubai, Indian Wells, Miami, and draw kind of a more complete judgment over that player. Because I may say something right now, but today Dubai has already started. So I can be wrong and in 4 days, So probably after Dubai, it would be, easier to really draw judgment about Iga, Arena, because we would have the full Middle East swing completed, and a better set of results to reflect on.
Tell you what we should do, producer, can we make a note of this? Let's get Mario back for the Miami show, the post-Miami show, and let's do a season assessment for our main players so far. First the quarterly review for these players. So keep your diary free on March 30th and 31st, Mario. We'll get you back.
Then where things can happen, for example, Sabalenka was looking bad in Washington and Canada, and then something clicked. And the end of the year has been unbelievable for her since Cincinnati onwards. So let's see what can happen. For sure, we have heard with this opening round loss in Doha kind of, let's say, a ringing bell that raised our attention on Sabalenka, and we will look carefully at her, especially if it's again against Alexandrova. It can be interesting because actually even when Sabalenka beat Alexandrova was tough at times. US Open, she was the only player to take a set off Arena. So we'll see.
It does seem to be that Sabalenka's kryptonite is other big hitters.
With a little bit, yes.
Pitch, who even then still hits the ball pretty hard.
But probably, let's say that Sabalenka, probably to become, the top player she is, chose to control her aggression a little bit more, and so right now she's better in overwhelming the players who don't hit that hard. And probably when she, meets these kind of players, she kind of tend to lose the time a little bit to really hit that hard and to get off balance a little bit. At least that's what happened against Keys and also against Alexandrova. Well, we will see, but I'm still not worried because even in those 3 years where Sabalenka has been, one of the best 2 players in the world, she, she had a few weeks maybe where she was not brilliant, but she has always redeemed herself at some point. So that's why I'm still waiting, at least to buy, to close the Middle East wing before really being disappointed at herself. Because still, Australian Open final, she was not far from winning the title once again. So just in some matches a little bit shaky and the serve not looking that good. That's what I would say.
Controversial question. We said that. Well, we've had a commenter in the live chat saying Iga Swiatek has the highest floor in the WTA, which I would agree with. Does Aryna Sabalenka have the highest ceiling?
I don't know. I don't think so. Probably. Sabalenka is also a really high floor, at least in slam level. That's what we've been told. So I would say that Sabalenka is another player who has a really high floor, regardless of a couple of losses here and there. Losing to Alexandrova doesn't mean that you don't have a high floor.
No, I think Alexandrova is an underrated player as well.
I mean, Alexandrova, beat Iga 4-2 in Miami, for example. So, she has these big wins. Also, Rybakina is a very good matchup for. It's a very tough question because actually,
actually, it's hard to say because, you could say, well, what about this player? What about this player? What about this player? And you don't see their ceilings.
Yeah, that's true. I still believe that the players who are very high in the ranking have the highest ceiling.
You don't have to answer the question. You don't have to pick a player, Mario.
Because look, if it's kind of even how high the ceiling is, I would prefer a player who shows that ceiling 20 times rather than 2.
And Sabalenka shows it 20 times.
Yes, exactly. For example, Ostapenko does it 2 times. So I don't want to get confused maybe by the difference that some players have from the floor and their high ceiling, and maybe it's because of this reason that we get more impressed at them playing this well. For example, when Ostapenko plays this well, we are impressed, but also because we watched her playing maybe bad matches 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. With Sabalenka, it's a bit different. With Swiatek, it's a bit different. You tend to not really get that impressed because it's kind of normality, let's say. So I would still say that the players who are the highest in the rankings are the players with the highest ceiling. That's my answer to that. So the top, let's say, the top 2 players are there because they have shown the ability to find their best in the most important moments.
I agree with that assessment. That's why they're there. Okay, I'm looking at the time. We're at 50 minutes. Is there any other stories from Doha that you
I want to answer
talk
to Ghosty. I'm not saying that, but for me, I don't believe Ostapenko has a higher ceiling than Swiatek and Sabalenka. That's my answer. It's probably even what Sabalenka is on or Swiatek is on. And that's why I prefer, because it's even, I tend to prefer player who does that more often. That's my idea.
I think that everyone's ceilings are pretty similar heights across the whole tour. And it's more about how often they reach that kind of defines where their ranking is. Be kind of my stance on it. There you go. Okay, so do you want to move on from Doha? Or do you want to make anything up from Doha? Okay. Goodbye, Doha.
Goodbye.
Move on.
Welcome to Dubai.
Normally I would kind of like go a little bit on Coco Gauff or Elena Rybakina, and we might have some time for that during the Dubai preview. But I think let's jump into let's do some Dubai preview now. Dubai has already started. So far there's been no 3-set matches. All the matches today have been almost straightforward straight sets, with the exception of maybe the Sofia Kenin beating Donna Vekic 5-3. I'm just gonna have a look at some notable results from today. Podolska winning in straights. Noskova winning against Putavitseva in straights 2 and 6. Bencic taking out Ito very convincingly, actually. Bencic still on a winning streak from Abu Dhabi, didn't play Doha. Vondrushova being Garcia in 2 and 2. Vukov getting off to a good start. Sakari and Raducanu are warming up. I think the one I'm kind of zooming in on is Svitolina just beat Anna Kalinskaya 1 and 2. Kalinskaya is going to just, I don't know what her live ranking is going to be after Dubai because I haven't checked, but I'm assuming it's going to drop now.
Sorry, you're asking me? So I was looking at the draw. Oh, Kalinskaya. Yeah, she's in a tough moment. Let's say that when you face many struggles physically, you tend to lose also that tennis confidence. I truly think about her that, her, let's say, consistent injuries and physical issues really are making her suffer also from the tactical and technical point of view. And who better than Svitolina for a player like Kalinskaya can expose, when you don't believe in yourself that well, because, for the way Kalinskaya plays, somebody like Svitolina, and Svitolina is also a player who, he's playing quite okay, quite good in this first part of the year. It becomes very tough for you to hit through her, and you need to be really clear with your ball striking, and Kalinskaya cannot do it right now. So it kind of makes sense as a result. I was expecting Svitolina to win. This score, of course, I haven't watched the match. Actually, I still have to tune into Dubai. But it still makes sense considering how Kalinskaya is leaving this period.
Okay, yeah, that's our word on Kalinskaya for today. So let's jump on to let's have a look at this draw then. So the Dubai draw, overall thoughts, very, very similar to the Doha draw. I do wonder, again, I've said this before, I do wonder whether the draw pullers use the same algorithm and it's not been properly reset from time to time. I think it's kind of killing a little bit of hype for me because I'm like, I saw this matchup last week. Can I get something different?
Yeah.
The one thing I will say is that Iga Swiatek does not have as tough a draw as she did in Doha. She's got Azarenka or Kalinina, who good opponents don't hit big enough to necessarily challenge her.
Yeah.
She might have a problem with Yastremska if Yastremska's on in round 3, but otherwise, I think she should be fine.
No, it looks okay. Yeah, it really looks okay as a draw.
It would be quarterfinals onwards. It could get tricky, and even then, maybe not. So I think that's the biggest difference overall as a headline that I've seen from this draw.
Yeah, because many things are really similar. Some getting some matchups again can be interesting. For example, in Sabalenka's case, because having she lost against Alexandrova, you can have this storyline of, I don't know, will Alexandrova do it again? Will Sabalenka get win this one? Or
my head immediately went to when Roger Federer lost to Guillermo Cañas twice in the Sunshine Double.
Yeah, exactly. It can be something similar. We'll see. That the fact that Sabalenka lost their match last week makes it, a bit interesting. I mean, Alexandrova is not sure. Kudermetova can do it also. So we will see. And then there is, of course, Noskova. I mean, Sabalenka is Pegula in her quarterfinal. There is, Goff also. We'll see, because she needs a good result probably in Dubai after not doing so in Doha. But let's see how Anisimova will look like in this tournament, because I mean it's never easy to bounce back the week after winning a big title. But if she's still on fire, it can be a very uncomfortable opening round. And then, we've been mentioning Rybakina, Ostapenko, possible round 2. And yeah, we know Rybakina is another player we are looking a lot into this first part of the season. Mixed feeling about her. I don't know what you think, but at least this is my feeling about Rybakina. Ups and downs. I struggle to form a clear opinion about her level right now.
Her level is okay.
Yeah,
it's
okay.
Base top 10 level, I would say.
Yeah, exactly.
Top 10 level. She's not showing herself as like it's kind of yet to be like top 4 level.
Exactly.
But top 10 is still pretty good, and where she would kind of belong. So I think she's playing to her ranking, especially given the players that she's losing to, like Swiatek twice and the eventual champion twice.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So, still pretty good. Hopefully that means this whole Vukov thing is not messing with her head too much. She's able to get on with things on the court. Obviously, Stefano Vukov banned for a year, I believe.
That's what The Athletic said in their article, where they said, all this information that, of course, haven't been confirmed by the WTA. It's a tough situation because there are also psychological things. into that. So also, for example, when Rybakina talks, how much should I read into those words? It's difficult really to say, because we may, you know, probably exaggerating it, but psychological bond, emotional bond can really make your eyes not looking at the reality as it is. And I don't know, I struggle to not trust the WTA if they have done a proper a proper investigation. It's tough. As you said, I cannot say much more than this, meaning that all the information is, of course, not confirmed by the WTA herself. But it's of course a tough situation. Of course, there is now Sanguinetti in her team. He's a very good coach. But of course, it's uncomfortable to have somebody, let's say it should be your coach, not being there, and also having such a strange dynamic in the relationship. Well, for if this is all around her, she is still handling it pretty well, meaning that she look herself on the court quite okay, as you said, still top 10 base, top 10 level. We'll see. I will be very interesting to see her playing in Dubai and in the next tournaments, because now that we have been known all this, looking at herself, her level, how she plays, how she looks like, also, I don't know, her side emotionally, it will be very interesting.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I would agree. I don't think I'm going to add anything to what you've said there, Mario, because you've pretty much said.
Yeah, I don't know if I dived too deep into that, but these are my contrasting feeling. I try to give a little bit of hints without going too deep into
Yeah,
this.
and it's not really our place to go too deep into this because we know nothing.
No, but I still want to to just give a couple of hints. To not underestimate the thing that there might be, there might not be coincidence with what somebody says and what somebody feels.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll go back to the tennis, I think. So what I think we still kind of started doing this. What I would like to do is, I guess, go through the 4 sections of the draw, or let's give your perspective on sort of the 4 sections of the draw, and want to ask you who you think the biggest threat to the leading player in that section is. So in my mind, we'll start with Sabalenka's draw at the top. So if I'm looking at it, I would say biggest threats would be Svitolina, Towson, Alexandrova has to be if she gets through this opener with Kudermetova, which I'm going to be paying great interest in tomorrow. If you get to the quarterfinals, I think I'd be interested to see how Noskova does against her, because she's gained a lot of confidence, seemingly. Jessica Pegula as well. Like, is she going to make any kind of progress in that head-to-head? For me, like, there's a few interesting names in there that if Sabalenka's off, could take some advantage. But as we've said before, most of the time Sabalenka gets through. But yeah, I'm kind of seeing a lot of players in there who have potential, but nothing guaranteed.
Definitely, yes. And that's why I would say either Alexandrova and Kudermetova, because it's the opening match. And this can make things even trickier than going on in the tournament. So that's why my answer to the biggest threat is whoever wins that match.
Yeah.
Because then maybe potentially many of these players, as you say, can be a threat for her if she's not playing the best. But yeah, probably if she manages to win round 2, then she can also improve as the week goes on. And that's why I still think the opening round match will be the toughest one, can be the toughest one.
Yeah, I'd agree. With Sabalenka gets some momentum behind her, she gets harder to beat. Especially, she should like Dubai, given it's fairly slick in terms of.
Yeah, she doesn't have a great record, actually.
Weird, isn't it?
But it's already different, for example, this year rather than last year and in 23 when Dubai was her first tournament back after the Australian Open. And this could have made things, trickier, especially because, for example, last year facing a player, she tends to, at times, to struggle against, straight away. So in the end, I still think that if she gets some momentum and wins the round 2, then she may go on a run because of what you say also about the conditions. Should be okay for her tennis.
Okay. And then for section 2, we talked about Goffas and Anisimova, and I was going to say we don't know whether this is a nightmare draw for Goff or a nightmare draw for Anisimova.
Yeah.
Goff, Anisimova, Goff has a bit of a trouble with Anisimova. Anisimova probably does not want to face a top 3 player, straight after winning Doha, more or less. I mean, I think we're expecting it to be Kessler. Let's see. That's going to literally depend on Anisimova's form and level.
Yeah.
After traveling, Kessler can pull off the odd upset. But that one, I think Anisimova is probably going to be Goff's biggest threat coming through. If not her, then Bencic would be the next one. Normally, I would say Mukova, but that head-to-head she has with Goff, who she seems to have a problem with for some reason. I think it's Goff's speed means she can't use her weapons as well as she would like. Mukova's one to watch always, but for me, it would be those 3 in that order: Anisimova, then Bencic, then Mukova.
Yeah, I have nothing to add.
Emma Navarro fans probably will be upset I'm not adding her into the mix there, but to be fair, that would be an interesting rematch if we got that.
Yeah, it sounds a bit weird because Bencic basically has just come back, but probably she enters the match as even slight favorite against Navarro, considering the fact that Bencic right now is kind of flying and Emma is struggling. But yeah, I have nothing to add because I definitely agree with what you said.
Fair. All right. Then we got the next section, which is the most open section. And it's up to you whether you want to call it the Paolini section or the Rybakina section.
Both. I would say both. Talking about the 2 top seeds.
Yeah.
Even because, let's say that in the end, the Paolini loss doesn't look that bad, meaning that everybody won 4 games against Ostapenko.
I don't have the live ranking in front of me. Is Paolini in danger of losing her top 4 place after Dubai?
Well, I would say yes, but let me check very fast.
Yeah.
Okay, no, it's Sunday. It's still Sunday.
Okay, we'll find out.
But yeah, I would say that the top 5 should be safe because Keys doesn't play. Pegula is the one who can surpass her. Rybakina, but would need a huge result. So
and don't forget, Rybakina was a quarterfinalist here last year.
So in danger, but not even that much.
Okay. Good to know she built up quite the ranking from those 2 Grand Slam finals.
I would say so. There is Ostapenko, there is Kenin Badosa.
Yeah, Badosa's the one I'm looking at.
Yeah, probably. It feels
the biggest threat.
Yeah, it feels a court where she can do really well.
It's not a great draw for Rybakina, it has to be said. If you get Ostapenko on form, although she's got a good head-to-head with Ostapenko.
Yeah, I think Rybakina, it will probably depend a lot on how well she serves. Because Ostapenko can be dangerous on return, but only when not if the opponent is serving really well. We've seen also the matches against Azarenka. I probably go with Badosa, meaning that I would think this is a court which suit her game pretty okay.
Okay, I would agree with that, and then I'd agree with that assessment. Badosa being the one I could see actually being even the most likely potentially to come through that section. And then the final.
Sorry, but there is again Jabeur. Potentially round 2 with Kim Wen.
That's section 4. That's the Swiatek section.
Yeah.
I was about to move on to and I think Jabeur is definitely going to be one to watch. Zhang Qinwen has not had a good start to the year, really.
No.
Her form's looking very questionable. Vondrousova is actually starting to build something up, I think. I'm interested to see how Andreeva does in this
a bit of ups and downs this year so far.
But overall, unless someone like I say, as I said before, Yastremska could peak or Zheng could peak, it's hard to call a big threat, a huge threat to Swiatek in this section.
It's a bit tough. It's a bit tough. Yeah, I agree with you on that. Let's say that just based on form and how well she's playing, I would say Jabeur, meaning that, for what we have watched, she's looking like the most dangerous player outside Iga in that section. So, but I would be surprised not to see Iga going deep in this tournament because the draw looks quite favorable to her. Even Yastremska, she is a hitter, but of course not as dangerous as other hitters can be for Swiatek, meaning that she can tend to lose her shots a bit more than others. So I would be surprised not to see Iga.
Yeah, but possible because we've said stuff like this before. So, all right, that's Dubai. We've looked at the biggest threats in there. Should be interesting. I think there's definitely potential for some more chaos as we've seen in Doha. I'm certainly a bit more reluctant to put kind of predict people this event in the same way as I did in Doha. But I guess if I had to, I would say maybe I guess like it's the Sabalenka section I have the most questions about. Otherwise, I'd be tempted to say the other 3 semifinals being Bencic, Badosa, and Swiatek. How that all progresses from there, I think if we're gonna say who's going to define this tournament, last tournament, Doha, it was going to be defined by Swiatek. I think this tournament is going to be defined by how Sabalenka is.
Yeah, probably. I agree with what you say. Let's say that I have some expectations from Sabalenka because maybe I will be wrong if she doesn't show up, but I would say that having a quite tough draw can even be okay for her if she wins those matches to raise her level. If she goes to the quarterfinal, to the semifinal, and starts playing the level you need to win those big matches and get your hands on the trophy. But yeah, considering the names, probably we will look a bit more on Sabalenka rather than Swiatek for sure, meaning that maybe Sabalenka's matches on paper can be more interesting. But whatever. Then maybe we will look like dumb in 3-4 days. It's tough. If I have to predict, I don't know. I don't know. Probably I would say Iga because having quite a favorable draw, this can make the difference probably a little bit in the end.
Let's see. Italy worked against her in Doha, might help her a lot in Dubai. And so Dubai is a tournament that Iga Swiatek has a history with just missing out on. So maybe this is finally her year in Dubai, based on the last of 3
She always played quite well in Dubai in the end.
All right, we've hit our hour and 15 mark. Mario, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. I love being here.
I love having you here. It's great. I like all the positivity that comes out whenever we talk to each other.
Finally, I mean, there's a lot of negativity always. I mean, for me, tennis is mostly about being positive and spreading good energy.
Let's keep doing that. I like it. So we're going to wrap it up there. ATP Weekly on its way, I think, tomorrow, time DBC. That will wrap up all the action from Marseille, it's tomorrow. So wrap up much action from Marseille, which looks like it's a pretty close final from Buenos Aires. And
Hugo Humbert has won the title. Just won the title. If anyone is interested, I know it's WTA Weekly, but this is a tennis news to share. So
there you go.
Another title for Humbert.
Hugo Humbert has defended his title in Marseille. And so we'll see what happens later in Buenos Aires and Delray Beach, and they'll break down all the results there and look ahead to the men's event in Doha and Rio. Keep an eye on the channel for more news and updates and comments and all the things that's going to be happening from what is going to be quite a big week, 2 500s and a 1000 on the tour. And obviously, WTA Weekly will be back next week to go over what happens, how it all falls in Dubai, and whether we were looking at Arina Sabalenka, Arina Swiatek, or someone else lifting that trophy and continuing to bring all the positive vibes. Thanks, everyone, for joining. I'll see you next week. In the meantime, take care and keep talking tennis.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.